Welcome to the Sizzle Basketball Podcast. Today I'm going to talk about last night's game between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Phoenix Suns. Last night, if you didn't get a chance to catch the game last night, it was an unreal game. Went down to the very end. The Phoenix Suns were able to pull out an epic win, 104-103, and a game winner by Deandre Ayton. He caught an alley-oop from Jay Crowder, who inbounded it side out. And Jay Crowder threw an alley-oop perfectly to a cutting Deandre Ayton. Devin Booker set a screen so Ayton could get to the rim. And Ayton was able to get to the rim on a fast first step. He got off on a quicker first step than Zubac. And then Zubac also got screened by Booker. So it gave more time for Ayton to get to the rim. And Zubac really did recover very well. And he put his hand up as great as he could to try to, help stop that alley-oop because he knew what was coming, as you could tell. But he did all he could, and he just wasn't able to do that. So, but in the end, a great play last night by Phoenix to seal a win. Some questionable calls in that game, for sure, towards the end there against Phoenix. Phoenix had to really kind of keep fighting in that game because they're the out of bounds, the steal by Patrick Beverley, which they said was Clippers ball, which didn't really seem to be so, right? And then you had a couple of. And then you had the one play where Beverly did get hit in the face a little bit, but he seemed to kind of flop a little bit, and they called it a flagrant one. So, the Suns had to get through their fair share of poor calls in that game, too. But they were able to escape with the win there, and that's all that matters, 104-103. So now the Suns take a 2-0 advantage in last night's series. And the MVP of last night, obviously we know DeAndre Ayton hit the game winner, but that's not the only reason why he was the MVP. His presence down low, 24 and 14. His presence down low, hitting mid-range jumpers, getting down to the paint, getting offensive rebounds, just playing very physical on both ends of the floor was the reason why the Suns won this game. The Clippers could not put anybody in front of him that could guard him. Zubac is usually a very good defender, but last night he didn't play great defensively against Ayton. And, every time the Clippers went to the small ball rotation, the Suns were able to absolutely take advantage of it with DeAndre Ayton down low. So that was one of the biggest reasons why the Suns won last night. Also, the emergence of Cameron Payne, because as you know, Chris Paul is hurt. Cameron Payne came in last night, 29 points with 9 assists. He had 2 threes, right? Cameron Payne was getting to the rim. He was using his burst. He has a very quick first step. He was using that quick first step to get to the rim and cause trouble for the Clippers down low. And the Clippers are a team without Ibaka and with Zubac playing the way he played defensively last night. That's a team that is going to struggle down low defensively. So the Suns took every advantage of the Clippers' struggles defensively down low and, penetrated with Cameron Payne and then got down low with DeAndre Ayton, and DeAndre Ayton just did his thing down low. So those two were the players of the game last night. And as far as it comes from Booker, Booker didn't play that well last night. Yeah, he had 20 points. Shot 5 of 16 on 31%, had 7 turnovers. Had more turnovers than assists. That's never a number you like to see. Obviously the nose injury, we saw what happened when he bumped heads with Patrick Beverley. But he should be okay from that most likely. It seems like he'll be back next game. He hit a couple big shots towards the end, Booker. But still, overall, not the best game for Booker, and Phoenix was still able to escape this game with a win. And it was a must-need to win because it's nice to have them go up 2-0, hold on to home court, and then now they go to Los Angeles at Staples Center, and we'll see what the Clippers are able to do at home. The Clippers need to get one of these 2 next games at home if they want to win this series. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens also with Kawhi Leonard. Now they're saying he's day-to-day. Before they were saying it was an ACL injury, so now it's very confusing on what really is the true story about this injury. I guess we'll find out in the next couple of days here. And then the Chris Paul COVID situation, he's supposed to be back within the next game or 2, but we don't know. So it's going to be very interesting. 2 teams that are fighting for a chance to get to the NBA Finals. Both have, Game 1 and Game 2 have both been incredible games. In this series, I've been very impressed so far with all the games in the playoffs so far this year. And for Phoenix, to go into Los Angeles and win Game 3 and Game 4, you're going to have to stick with the same game plan. Let Booker play a little bit of isolation when Booker's not moving the ball, or when Booker's not playing well in isolation. Then you start to move the ball to your shooters. Get the ball to Crowder. Get the ball to Mikal Bridges. Get it to Cam Payne. Let him use his first quick step to get down to the rim, right? Get it down low to DeAndre Ayton because he's a mismatch down low. He's been a mismatch in Game 1 and 2. So get it down low to DeAndre Ayton and let him do his thing. So the Clippers are going to continue to defend DeAndre Ayton the way they are, right? Either playing small ball or putting Zubac on him who can't defend him. Then you need to keep taking advantage of that if you're the Phoenix Suns. And I hope they do that in Game 3 and Game 4. Now, from the other end of the spectrum, if you're the Los Angeles Clippers, yes, you want Kawhi back, just like the Suns want Chris Paul back, but you might have to deal with not playing with Kawhi the rest of the series. So here's what you have to do. The Clippers need to defensively play a little bit better. Even though on some possessions defensively they're hounding the ball and they're great. On other possessions they're giving up way too many wide open looks, way too many good looks down low. They need to figure out defensively down low what they need to do, right? Not having Ibaka very much hurts in this series because down low he could help against Ayton. They need to figure out what they got to do down low because Zubac isn't the answer. And you have to try to keep Deandre Ayton out of the paint because he's too good to put a bunch of small bodies down by the paint because he'll actually post up and he'll score. He's too good for that, right? Just Phoenix did that in their previous series, or not Phoenix, the Clippers did that in their previous series against Utah. They put a bunch of small guys on the perimeter and then put, I think it was Marcus Morris at times, right, on Rudy Gobert, but they knew Rudy Gobert wasn't a good enough offensive player to take advantage of that matchup. So they were able to live with it, and then they lived with also dominating Rudy Gobert outside the three-point line because Rudy Gobert isn't physically quick enough to get out there. That's not the case here. Ayton is quick enough to get out there, and Ayton is much better down low offensively. So the Clippers are dealing with a much different situation here. They don't have a great big man, especially without Ibaka, and now they're dealing with a tough situation. The Clippers need to just keep getting the ball in the hands of their shooters and just keep shooting the lights out of the basketball. They need to shoot even better than they have in games 1 and 2. They need to keep shooting the lights out of the three-point ball, and that's the only chance they have in the series. Because this is a tough matchup for the Clippers, right? Having DeAndre Ayton down low is tough for the Clippers without Ibaka. So it's a tough matchup for the Clippers on so many different ends. Also because the Clippers are not as deep of a team, in my opinion, either. Even though the Clippers are a deep team, they're not quite as deep, especially with Kawhi Leonard out and Ibaka out. So that means the Clippers have to go to certain guys that they're not used to going to for the rest that they're not used to going to all season. They have to rely on those guys in the biggest games of the season or the playoffs. So the Clippers have some adjustments to make. They really didn't play that bad last night. And the Clippers also have this nag. When they get down in games, they always seem to come back. So you can't count them out. Right? Down 25 to Utah. Last night down big at one point. Came back and made it a ball game. Almost won the game. So the Clippers have this sort of nag where they kind of, no matter how much you're up by, they're always going to come back and kind of, annoy you and come back and kind of get in your head a little bit. So, if you're Phoenix, you have to watch out for that next game. Don't get too comfortable with your lead because every time you have a lead against the Clippers, you can't get too comfortable or else they'll capitalize on your mistakes. This is a Clippers team that's very good on capitalizing on opponents' team's turnovers and bad shots taken. They capitalize on all those things. Right? Every time a team turns the ball over, the Clippers will capitalize and go down to the other end and score. Look at how many transition points the Clippers have scored in this playoffs compared to other teams. So, I don't think the Clippers are entirely out of this series quite yet. I do think they need to make adjustments. Yes, would Kawhi help a lot? Of course. But you're most likely not going to have Kawhi for this series unless he really is day-to-day, and I don't know if I believe that. So you need to learn how to adjust without Kawhi. Keep getting your shooters outside the line. Play small ball in a way if you can, but try to help DeAndre Ayton down low. Maybe double team Ayton down low. And then close out to a shooter really quick that he passes to. They haven't really done that. Maybe they could try that, double DeAndre Ayton down low, and then close out to a shooter really fast because the Clippers are playing small ball, but we have to understand with small ball and defense, they'll be able to get out to shooters really fast because they have, they're playing small ball with a bunch of guys who are quick. So they'll be able to get out and close on the shooters really well. So maybe you can hope that the Suns miss some of those looks when they're getting closed on. So it's going to be very interesting to see. The game will be tomorrow night, game 3. It will be at Staples Center. Clippers got to bring their A+ game because if they don't win tomorrow night, the series is over. I think the Clippers will win tomorrow night, and then I think they'll lose the next 2. I think they'll lose in 5. And then I think Chris Paul will come back in either game 4 or game 5. Because Phoenix is going to want Chris Paul back, obviously, for this series, but they're also going to want him back to understand that they're going to need him for the team chemistry moving forward from this series to the finals. I understand he's had great chemistry with this team all year, but when you miss a little bit of time in the playoffs and then you come back, it's tough sometimes to get acclimated. So it would be nice for the Suns to have him for 1 or 2 games in this series at least, and then he comes in the NBA Finals and he's fresh, right? He's played a couple games and he's acclimated again and everything's moving smoothly. So that would be, of course, the goal for the Phoenix Suns, to get Chris Paul back at least by game 4, because there's a chance he could play in game 3, But if I had to take a guess on it, I would say no, because I haven't even heard anything yet of him returning 2 positive COVID tests. And he has to do that first, and then he has to wait 24 hours past that to get another sort of test. I forgot exactly what it is, and then he'll be cleared to play. So he's still waiting on at least 2 more days until he can actually suit up and play. That's if he's getting the test today. So definitely something to keep an eye out for on Chris Paul. And then in the East, right, you have the Eastern Conference Series starting tonight between the Bucks and the Hawks. That's an interesting series. I mean, whoever expected the Hawks to get past the Philadelphia 76ers? And if you didn't check out my last podcast, I talked about the 76ers in my last podcast and what went wrong with them. So go check that out. But whoever expected the Hawks to get past the Sixers? But they did. So now the Hawks are playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, Milwaukee's favored, and I would take Milwaukee too. I'm going to take Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee wins in 6. But I think this is going to be an interesting series. I think it's going to be an interesting series because Milwaukee has a knack to turn the ball over a lot and force a lot of shots, and Atlanta has a knack to come back in games and make games a lot tighter than they should be. Those two things don't really match up that well for the Milwaukee, right? You got something going against you if you're Milwaukee right now. You're playing against a team who can always come back on you, a team that has a closer, and a team that has a dog in them and they never give up. And you're a team that's very talented in Milwaukee, but you make a lot of dumb decisions. So if Milwaukee can limit and take away those dumb decisions, this series should be a 4-1, maybe even 4-0 sweep. But I'm going to say Milwaukee wins 4-2 because I guarantee they make a couple really costly mistakes in a couple games, and it will cost them a couple games. I don't think it will cost them a series because they're that much better of a team, in my opinion. But I think it will cost them a couple games. So, I mean, and listen, don't sleep on Atlanta either. I'm not trying to disrespect Atlanta by saying what I just said about Milwaukee making stupid plays, and that's the only reason Atlanta will win a couple games. I'm not trying to disrespect Atlanta. I'm just basically trying to say that Milwaukee is a much better and more experienced team, and they're way better on paper. They should not lose this series. Now, Atlanta's a very good young team, but they're very inexperienced. They beat a New York Knicks team who was also inexperienced, and then they went the other night and finished off a Philly team in 7 who, yes, that was very impressive on Atlanta's end, but a Philly team who's obviously having a lot of issues right now. So it sounds again like I'm trying to take some away from Atlanta. I'm not. This is going to be their toughest test. This Milwaukee team is going to be their toughest test by far. And they're going to have to play smart basketball every game. They can't have these games where they don't show up. They're going to have to play smart basketball every single night because they're not going to have home court advantage again, just like they have the other 2 series. But they're playing Milwaukee is a much better team than the Knicks or Philly. Even with the dumb mistakes, Milwaukee is much better. You're going to have to try to put Capella on Giannis and hope that Capella and John Collins can build a wall around Giannis and help stop Giannis. And then you say, okay, if we're going to do that, then let's see the other guys beat us. Let's see Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. Let's see if those 2 guys can beat us. And if those 2 guys can beat you, then you lose a series fair and square. But if Atlanta can do a good job against Giannis and put a wall around Giannis, because they do have 2 guys that can do that, unlike Brooklyn, they can make it really tough for Milwaukee. Because Brooklyn didn't have that against Milwaukee. Durant's not big enough. Jeff Green's not big enough. DeAndre Jordan didn't play in that series a minute. He didn't step on the floor a minute. You don't have anybody. Nick Claxton came off the bench. He's not good enough yet to guard Giannis. You don't have anybody that can really kind of put the wall around Giannis in Brooklyn, and now you do in Atlanta. So that's another reason why I think Atlanta could win 2 games in this series. They could just kind of help stop or limit what Giannis is able to do for 2 games, and then once Giannis is able to kind of outsmart the wall, which he did do against in his first round series against the Miami Heat. And yes, the Miami Heat were all over the place, but they did build the wall, and Giannis was able to kind of smart his way around it and kind of just play within himself and not take bad shots. He did it against Miami. Well, let's see if he can do the same here against the Atlanta Hawks, who will build a similar type wall as the Miami Heat did with Bam and Ariza. So I'm really excited for the Eastern Conference Series. And I gave you guys my Clippers prediction at the beginning of the year. I guess I'm going to have to stick with that because I'm not going to change it up here. I had Brooklyn come out of the East. Obviously, Brooklyn lost, so that prediction, that side is out of the way for me. I'm not going to get the East right, but maybe I'll get the West right. But the Clippers are going to need Kawhi back if they want to have an opportunity. And the Clippers should not be in panic mode. Yes, they need to win Game 3, but there's no reason to be in panic mode because Charles Barkley says it the best. He says no team loses a series when they lose home court. Nobody's lost home court yet. Now you're the Clippers. You go back to your home court, which you've been great at in the postseason, other than against Dallas. You were great against the Utah at home, on your home court. Didn't lose once. So now you go back home and you make your little adjustments. You make your adjustments. Paul George steps up. He plays a little better. Right? He missed 2 free throws that he would normally never miss. Paul George steps up. He plays a little better. He doesn't get too much pressure on him, and he just plays the game. He just lets the game come to him, and all of a sudden you make your adjustments, and guess what? The Clippers win Game 3. They're right back in at 2-1, and then you move from there. So this series is far from over. The Clippers need a must-win, though, in Game 3 tomorrow night. So we got to keep our eye out for that one tomorrow night. Should be a great game again tomorrow night. I'm excited. It's been a great series so far. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure you go subscribe to the channel. Like this video. Follow the Instagram. Do all the above for me, please. I would really appreciate it. And just so you guys know, I'm going to put an FYI out there really quick. We're going to have more things on our Instagram. The wide receiver tournament for the NFL wide receivers. The final. I'm going to post it today. Today we're in the finals. The finals, just so you guys know, is Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams. So whoever you guys vote on, that's going to be the best receiver in the NFL according to you guys. I'm also going to do running back polls, and then as well as tight end and some defensive position polls. And then when this NBA season wraps up and the finals is over, I'm going to do some NBA polls. Who's the best point guard, shooting guard, small forward? Who's the best power forward, center? Who's the best coach? Everything in between. So I'm gonna try to do more of these polls for you guys, so you guys can get more engaged in the fan page and get more engaged in following sports and everything. So make sure you guys tune into that, and have a great one.